welcome to INXS, Access All Areas. My name is Bea and I will be co-hosting this series of podcasts with my INXS nerd Hayden Murdoch. We will be delving deep with you all to explore everything there is to know about this iconic band of brothers INXS, sharing music, tours, videos, albums and oh so much more.
Well, hello, welcome to Access All Areas, episode 145, the podcast that aims to dive deep into all things great about this band, INXS, doing it with friends and family and people, obviously, who are patrons and people like Bea, who are my compadre. I said family then, didn't I? But we're all a family.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
We're all an INXS community. We're a family. We're excited to get back because we sort of really had 2 weeks of no recording between Easter and you on the road touring with our very valued patron, David Gaunt, who's in Australia. Hello, David, and his lovely wife.
Yes, that's Michaela. So hello to Michaela.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned family there. You actually have got a little kid in the office with you. Is that correct?
School holidays. So the kids are on devices listening to the back catalogue of Welcome to Wherever You Are. So they're getting indoctrinated into a life of INXS and
that's right.
Keeping Daddy free to do the podcast. So yeah, that's
good on home.
How are you, Bea? I'm going to come straight off the bat. How's your INXS Easter been? You've been on the road, and I think kudos to you, just for those who don't know. Bea did go on tour with David and sort of tour all around the INXS landmarks of Sydney.
Yeah, it was a pretty epic journey. Went down to see David and his beautiful wife, Michaela. This is a celebration for his 50th birthday. And what a wonderful thing. He's never been to Australia before, so they were literally right off the boat in a way and stepped into the car. And yeah, we went and did, we went saw Michael's memorial first, which Sydney turned it on. It was beautiful. I let them have their moment. I didn't go with them. And then we went to where we went to see Michael's, where he was christened, and the Farris house. We met a lovely man called Peter Webb, who was the next door neighbour, who actually helped build the Farris brothers swimming pool. It was quite fun, actually. It was nice hearing some fun stories from him. Where else? Oh, and then we took a bit of a sneaky beak around the beaches, and we went to
the factory, Clemo's factory.
Yeah. Oh, just loads of things, and we swapped loads of stories and such gorgeous people. And we ended up in Bondi and saw my mate Kev. Hello, Kev, mate. You were an absolute star. He took us out in the evening.
And the Stay Young, Clontarf, did you go there?
Oh, yeah, we went there as well. Yeah, that was pretty special. But we went to a great bar. Lots of bars, actually. Too many bars. I won't tell you about the next day. But we went to a great pizza place. It's very New York style pizza. I don't know if you've ever been to New York. And it's called Mikey's.
Get a slice? Buy a big slice?
No, it was massive pizzas, but to die for. And this guy, Mikey, knows another guy who's very much into INXS. There was a huge amount of INXS memorabilia and music being played. So, I mean, that was just top, absolute top. So Mikey's Pizza in Bondi, there's a bit of a plug for you guys, but yeah, definitely go. I think I've got a little bit of a thing here. What do you reckon? I could do this as a sideline.
INXS Tours Incorporated by Bea, etc. there. But yeah, it looked like you had a great time, and I do believe David's landed in Melbourne as we speak, and I'm trying to find a way of one-upping you, and I don't know if I can pull that particular task off, but I'm going to see if I can. But I did love the little photo that I think Michaela took of Dave flicking through vinyl in a indie sort of record store, and she was like, "Oh yeah, while I'm waiting, and then he's flicking away." And I'm thinking that's what I'd be like if I was in England doing what he was doing in Australia. So, but kudos to you, well done to you, and I guess.
And he got to see Richard Simpkins and showed him his tattoo that he had done from the book. Yeah, how cool is that?
Richard ironically posted that himself, and that was awesome too. And speaking, I guess, of Easter, etc. there, just before we went to Easter break, we did do a pretty cool episode with Michael Browning from AC/DC and INXS fame in terms of the early stages of managing those bands and their recordings and, their ascent into the UK and the US. So thanks to all the people who've listened to that podcast and come back. I did chat to Michael yesterday, and he was really happy with the way it was put together. He liked your editing. I think he played it to a lot of friends and family. I think he's a humble guy. I don't think a lot of people always realise just, the depth and achievements in his career. So I'm glad that he loved it too. So thank you, Michael, for participating. And there may be some more things we look to do together in the future. So again, Michael was a great guest.
Yeah, I got that feeling from him when he said, he wasn't really a businessman in that big world, and he'd done his bit. He got the band together to a point, and he just said, okay, you go ahead now. You do the big world stage. Yeah, nice guy. Really nice.
Now, B, we are only about 2.5 weeks away from an anniversary, which is our 3rd birthday. And we thought I think we had a discussion about this. If not, I'm making an executive decision. But
well, I've got an idea as well. So this might be a bit fluid on here today.
Well, didn't we think that, it's probably been a busy time to sort of coordinate everything together like last year. But we thought we would try to do some sort of international Zoom hookup with maybe, I won't say our top 10 patrons, but, top 10 sort of real contributors to the podcast over time. We're going to send an invite out to you, those who've made our podcast really, really worthwhile. And again, we can take bribes and add a couple of more things on there, a couple of more people on there. But we'd like to maybe have a glass of champagne around the world with a bunch of people at different times and things like that. So it might be 4 a.m. at some time around the world, which could be champagne time for some, and maybe 9 in the morning could be champagne time for some there.
It could be.
We thought we might do an international Zoom hookup call for 10 or 12 people who we value and who valued us, and do a bit of a look back, a little bit of a retrospective back on some of the episodes, and just really a chit-chat together amongst real INXS fandom. We're just putting that out because it's about 3 weeks away, B. Now, I know you got your hand up. You are invited. Yes, you are.
Well, I have actually booked a hotel just for me in the city, in Sydney. So if anybody wants to come along and join me, I'm going to have a few champagnes there. I'll take the computer down. Okay, I'm thinking, and might do something live from the hotel room.
That sounds good. So that's we're talking around sort of the first weekend in May, roughly, I think, at that particular point.
8th of May.
8th of May.
Our birthday, which is Mother's Day as well.
Oh, right. Well, maybe that's the recovery day.
Oh, and it's Mark Opitz's birthday too.
Geez, it comes around very fast. He's born on our isn't that ironic? He's actually, his birthday is our birthday, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Speaking of which, Mark's in Melbourne this week, so hint. I won't say not much more at the moment, but hopefully Mark plays a role this week. P, anything else come across your desk in your INXS fortnight?
Well, we did a little thing, didn't we? We did a little video and we put a little thing out last week, just very thing.
Yes.
And we did a draw. So all those you should be on your way. Well, you might have even got them by now. So congratulations to, not Michael. I read that out wrong again. I'm not very good at reading out, am I? Michelle. I even got the gender wrong. So it was Michelle Johnson, and I do believe she was giving it onto a friend. So I hope you got it in time. So that was wonderful. And Matthew Kavanagh, he won our other draw for the mixtape. I hope everyone, have you listened to it yet?
The mixtape? No, I haven't.
You don't.
I know. But you do realise I'm coming off the bench after a bad influenza. I always get sick around this time of year, remember? I always get sick around our birthday.
You do, actually. So, you must be allergic.
Like clockwork, okay. But, so Matty Kavanagh, he won the Don't Lose Your Hair tour book, which was signed.
No, the other way around. Michelle won the tour book.
Right.
Yeah, and Matty won the mixtape.
Mixtape, right. Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, we love giving away stuff and people winning stuff as well. So kudos to you.
And
yes.
And so that means you've got to listen to the end of the show.
Listen to the show, because we have another item that is going to be very, very well regarded and received. So we're not going to launch it today.
Welcomed even.
Well, it's going to be very welcome. There's been a welcoming theme so far. But we'll announce the end of the show, and it might have something to do with signatures as well. So hang tight, because there's another, auction item. Not so much a raffle, but an auction item, this one. And we'll let you know at the end of the show. But B, we're pretty excited because our new format, we get straight into the next thing, which is...
Hey, this is Tim Farris. Big shout out to Hayden and B. Also want to say hello to all the listeners and INXS fans. Thanks for listening. I love you, Hayden and B. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
And now it's time for Topic of the Week.
Here we go. And finally tonight, it was back to a familiar sort of atmosphere for globe-trotting Australian band INXS. They'll be playing pubs and clubs like this across Australia and then in the United States, Britain and Europe. INXS has started its tour in Perth because it was here the band was formed about 14 years ago. They'll be playing 2 more shows in Fremantle before heading on to Adelaide.
Well, it's 30 years ago, really in this last sort of week or two, where INXS, as they probably have said, and particularly I think Andrew said to a degree at the time, probably just burst their own bubble by not doing the big world tour after the recording of Welcome, not deciding to sort of play the record company game and do big stadium tours and be on the road for 18 months and probably sort of put a lens on their career where they thought, well, you know, the amount of albums we've got out and the amount of years we've been together is sort of widening. So they wanted to close that gap, so to speak. And hence, you know, went into the recording studio, made Welcome to Wherever You Are, did a couple of little sort of small Aussie pub club uni type sort of tours. I think it was called Get Out of the House tour, particularly also overseas. They did a little European sojourn, but didn't go anywhere near the lengths that they would have historically done off X and say Kick and Listen Like Thieves, where they're on the road for a year doing massive venues, massive press.
The rock group INXS is calling on its fans to get out of the house. The Australian band has just kicked off a 10-city tour of North America. Big difference with this one, no stadiums, just small clubs and theaters, the way lead singer Michael Hutchence likes it.
We wanted to go and do something like a pub tour like we used to do a long time ago. That's our roots, where we came from.
The pub tour came about when the band had too much fun playing the small Australian clubs where they got their start. Hutchence is promising the shows will be pure energy.
It's real. You can get sweated on, you know? You can smell it.
This topic is a little bit of a credit to our listener audience and also the wider INXS community, because they reminded us, I guess, especially through Twitter and our platforms and Instagram, about this tour and this particular period in the last week or two. So it did inspire me to think, well, yeah, this is an important part. We are, to a certain degree, you know, going backwards a fraction from, our timeline, where we are sort of doing 1997 with Elegantly Wasted. But because it is a 30-year anniversary since this club, pub and uni tour, I think it's an important sort of narrative to discuss. Why'd they do this tour? Where were the band at? What did it do in terms of commercial aspirations for those behind the scenes? I happened to attend some of these shows at the time, and they were right in the wheelhouse of my sort of passion for the band. And I guess I've got a bit of first-hand sort of experience to share. But again, it was a sort of a time where they went against the normal grain of what bands were expected to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this, because we did a great post and we had some good interactions with people. So hopefully we can talk about those as well later. Yeah. So I believe this tour started in Perth, where it all began for the boys, really.
Yeah. So a little bit of a backdrop. If you actually just think about the recording in Australia, they'd done the X Factor tour here in sort of 91, sort of by sort of mid-year, that sort of tour. And then they'd gone to Europe and done another leg of the X Factor tour and gone into sort of Wembley, etc. But then when you think about it, they only did the Concert for Life, which we discussed previously in 1992, obviously made Welcome. And as we remember, when Michael came down to do the Concert for Life, they were still sort of mixing Welcome with Andrew and with Mark in Sydney at Rhinoceros. But the rest of 92, they really didn't do much touring. And then when this album sort of came out, come April, 93, they started off, I think, at Metropolis nightclub in Perth, which, again, when you think about it, like any small number of bands or indie bands would probably play a venue like that. But a band like INXS to choose to do that was a bit of a juggernaut suddenly trying to be squeezed into this little tiny venue. But I remember some quotes at the time, and I'm just probably speaking sort of off the top of my head, but I remember Michael and the band saying, we forgot what it was like to smell each other on stage.
That's right, yes.
Being near each other and, at these big stadium events. I think with X and Wembley, they'd sort of climbed that mountain, and then they'd done the Concert for Life. And I thought, well, there's this sort of point in a career where a band does get 2/3 through their career and go, okay, what does it all mean? We have to be part of that sort of machine, album tour type sort of cycle, and be on the road for 3 years and recording. And they wanted to jump off, I guess, the conveyor belt. So when they did go into playing in Metropolis in Perth, it was really sort of not a commercial exercise. It was like, okay, well, let's just get down and dirty and let's road test some songs. But not only on Welcome, which had been out for, the better part of 6 months, they had, a lot of the Full Moon Dirty Heart songs that they were still recording at the time, and they road tested it. So I'm going to go through a little bit later, B, just the set list from that Metropolis gig. I'm also going to do a set list in the UK around July, because people in the UK got a chance to sort of benefit from this gig, whereas I believe those in America and Canada had to wait till Full Moon was out later in the year to go and enjoy some of those songs, etc. there. So a little bit of further backdrop there. The band, I don't know if you know the Beatles, they didn't play a concert after 1966. Did you know that?
No, I know, yeah.
Yeah, so they went from really what you would call a band recording touring entity to this sort of total recording entity. And I guess for INXS during this particular period, we talked about the Welcome and the Full Moon albums being created together. It was such a sort of a creative time, as Mark Open said on our previous podcast, but it was their decision, and I'm sure it wasn't the label or even Mark. I know Mark was a bit disappointed they didn't tour America on Welcome, and he probably wanted to sort of see the commercial gains of that tour as well, naturally speaking, because they would have had the Welcome songs, the Full Moon songs eventually, and then obviously their past catalogue. But look, they chose to sort of said not tour as much and only do this sort of tiny, small clubs tour. But the cliche at the time, the media narrative, I remember coming out was, typically as that sort of pushback came, was some of the media were like, oh, they can't afford to sell out these other venues. And, it couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, if you do shrink yourself, eventually you are in danger of eventually continually shrinking yourself, because people think, oh, they must have shrunk because you've chosen small venues. Well, no, they chose to shrink the venues because of the nature of what they've done. They wanted to go back to play something smaller and more intimate.
When you're as huge as INXS, I wondered if you always get your own way, or if there was anyone brave enough to put the foot down and say no.
I can't believe the question. Sorry, no. No, we're too big for our own boots, really. We definitely call the shots. We've never ever been in the situation where we've sort of allowed that to happen. Sure, when we first decided to do this tour, there was a number of people who showed obvious concern about, people like accountants and managers and, record companies, and that would sort of want you to perpetuate the enormous sort of band thing, but really we weren't too interested in that, we really wanted to, we want to try and dispel all the myths, go against the grain and live a little.
Venues, obviously, that they did choose throughout that tour not only included, as I said, nightclubs, but they played at a place in Melbourne called the Palace, which is next to the Palais, and that was the first concert I happened to see on this particular tour. A couple of nights later, they played at Melbourne Uni, and all of us camped out overnight, on the steps of the hall at Melbourne Uni to get front row the next night.
I heard that people were actually camping out just to get tickets, and the tickets were only released a few days before where they were going to be at the venue.
It was very much like Prince.
Hardcore fans.
It was very much like Prince, he would announce something and suddenly, 4 weeks later he'd be playing. So it was very spontaneous. Then the third night that I went to was at Monash Uni over in Caulfield here in Melbourne, and that was a full-on concert. I remember that being quite,
Wasn't you moving the actual stage? Was that where that concert?
That was at Melbourne Uni. The actual stage was being pushed forward to the point where it was moving. We were literally pushing the stage backwards towards the wall. So that was interesting. And John kept playing, etc. there. And then at Melbourne Uni, people were punching each other and jumping on each other. It was around about the height of grunge and slam dancing and things like that. So that was full on. But I think what's exciting, B, is this particular set list I've got in front of me here. So can I share that with you, what they played?
Yes, please do.
At the very first concert that they played on this tour, what song would you think would be a good opening song to sort of start off and play?
Isn't it Communication?
Okay. All right. Okay, you're sneaking ahead and seeing my set list. But I was just thinking,
No,
what song?
I haven't.
Oh,
That's
really?
I thought that's what it was.
Okay, all right. Well, you're actually right. So well done to you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But interestingly, like when we went to the gig, like we didn't know what they were going to play. If you just think back to this thing.
And you wouldn't have known that song, yeah.
Well, no, we did because Welcome had been out for 6 months. So we didn't know.
Oh, right. Okay.
But we thought, INXS concert, Heaven Sent or something like that off the album. But they came out with Communication First. And we were thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. They came out with Days of Rust, which was the second song. So, and look, we had no idea what it was. So you're standing in the audience thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. And I know this track. And we look at each other going, wow, they're playing a new song. Wow. Thank God. Wow, great. New song being played. Watch this. And then next thing you know, they play the next song, and Michael introduces it's called The Gift.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we hadn't heard that before. And then the night of that recording, they went off to make the Gift film clip in Port Melbourne.
Right.
So, of course, we drove around that night around the suburbs trying to find the film clip being made and things, only to realise that when we saw the making of the film clip years and years later, a lot of it was in daytime, so I think they might have made it before the concert that night.
Oh,
yeah.
Chicky.
So then we're like, okay, 3 songs in, okay, 2 new songs off the track. They'll bow to a song that we know. No, they then come in and play their 4th song, which is Make Your Peace.
Oh.
Yeah. Now we're a lot of hardcore fans and we're thinking this is fantastic, and a lot of the crowd were jumping up and down and things. Then a bit of sanity restored, where they came out and played the Love One, which is 5th. Okay. Thought, okay, that's fine. Then they've gone into another new song called Cut Your Roses Down, which happened to be made in the same suburb, that clip, by Richard Lowenstein in that at the George Hotel around the corner from the Palace.
Oh, I didn't know. Thank you very much. I wondered where that was.
They did. Filmed that in Melbourne at the George Hotel Cafe Cinema in just off Fitzroy Street in St Kilda. They then came out and played Taste It, which we knew. They then went into Need You Tonight, then Mediate, of course. And then we're thinking this will be regular songs and things like that. Then they've suddenly pulled out Full Moon Dirty Hearts. Okay. And we're thinking this is pretty cool. And Michael said this is going to probably be the name of the album coming out. So we're like, this is good. Then they've gone into Please You've Got That.
The
let's just break this down a little bit for a moment. We'll pause B on 11 songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the first 11 songs off an album you haven't even heard before. And Communication, album track, Love One, a cover, and Taste It, one of the singles, and Need You Tonight, a single. So pretty alternative start to a concert.
Very different, isn't it?
Yes. After that, okay, the crowd started getting into it even more because all the ones who didn't know all the ones that were wanting the hit, suddenly Suicide Blonde came on next, which was number 12. Send a Message, 13. All Around, 14. What You Need, 15. Devil Inside, 16. And then Heaven Sent, 17, of which that time they had a bit of an encore. I think during that encore, Michael might have passed me the fruit bowl, the famous fruit bowl at the gig, which is now a proud owner by Lockie, good friend of the podcast, and a Facebook stalker for Hayden, which is fine. We love Lockie, okay? And we've got the encore came out. We had the song Time, which we thought was called, It's Only Time, because we thought, the chorus, that's pretty cool. The chorus is It's Only Time. In fact, I think we got the set list off the stage and it had It's Only Time. That's why till the album came out, we thought that's what the song was going to be called, but they probably hadn't sort of shortened it to time yet. Then they played Kick, and then they played Don't Change to round out 20 songs there. If we did a little bit of a pie, and one of the things which you can break down, they effectively, we break it all down. They played 7 off Full Moon, 4 off Kick, 4 off Welcome, 1 off Listen Like These, 1 off Shaboo, 1 off The Swing, 1 off X, and one cover. So a real sort of potpourri of songs there, but very 11 songs off the two sort of incumbent albums, be it Welcome and Full Moon.
Gary Crowley and Michael Hutchins from INXS blowing the froth there off a few jars. It's always nice to meet a fellow sex god. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Now, you're over here at the moment doing, the tour's been described as like a world pub tour.
Yeah.
What's it been like to sort of like see the whites of your fans' eyes again, to be in such close, sweaty proximity?
It's really great. We're enjoying it more than we thought we would, Usually by this stage. We're 3 months in the tour and we're starting to rev up now, So it's great.
The last few times that you've been over to this country, it's been sort of stadium gigs. What's the thinking behind sort of going back to small places?
We're between albums and we've always wanted to do something like this, so we thought now's the time, we can just zip around. We haven't toured for a long time, in the normal gigs, so now's the time to do it, run around the world and say, hi, we're alive, and we've got an album coming out in September and stuff.
Does it sort of remind you a little bit of your early days? Because that's how INXS started out, didn't it? Checking across Australia and just playing pubs, really.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel nostalgic for those days?
Yeah, we played like 20 shows in Australia that we played about 8 years ago, so sure. And Town and Country or the Forum and whatever. It's great. Same old graffiti and same old problems, It's good.
I understand that the security is at a minimum at a lot of these concerts. Has there been any scary moments so far?
Oh, yeah, here and there. Nothing too bad. It's usually my fault. So
what sort of things?
Jump in the audience or something, That's about it. We had a problem in LA, but that wasn't exactly. That was a bigger show, but where they just swamp you and they end up people following each other and it becomes like lemmings, But
what happens when you kind of sort of
jump
scars,
out?
What happens when you jump out into the crowd like that? Does everybody?
They're supposed to hold you up and throw you back.
That's
occasionally
the idea.
They don't. Occasionally they just pummel you.
I was going to say, do people's hands kind of tend to sort of like go walkabout all over your body?
Yeah,
is that something that you enjoy?
Oh, immensely.
Well, nice work if you can get it.
If you can get it, yeah.
few months later, when they went and played in the UKB, they played virtually the same set list that I'm looking down here, but they played The Messenger over there, I think, and they might have played one other song there as well, but they played 21 songs there. That gig, for some people, we'd love to know if you were there, was on that Get Out of the House tour, July 15, 1993, at the Forum in London. Do you know the Forum venue in London, B?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Have you been there? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what I've seen. I think it was Pulp, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember, it's probably a small venue as per view of these concerts and things like that. But again, if people are lucky enough to go to that gig, we'd love to hear from you. And we know we have a reach now where somebody's been to a gig we mentioned, so we'd love to hear from you. But when we break down this particular tour, again, I don't know many other bands have gone out and done things like this where they said, okay, well, we're just going to downscale. I know Rolling Stones did a smaller theatre venue thing for recording one of the blues albums back in the mid-2000s. But in terms of a band at the level, at sort of that sort of post-Wembley level, they're going, okay, we just want to break it down a little bit. And, you know, again, in a way, it probably did hurt them commercially in time, and it probably hurt them commercially thereafter when they sort of went on a break after the Full Moon stuff, et cetera, there. But it was them that decided. And I think that came across in Andrew's interview with us. If you haven't heard that podcast, go back and have a listen. But it really was the band who thought, well, no, we know commercially it's probably not a great move, but artistically wise, they wanted to play these new songs. They want to get reach with the audience. They wanted to go back to something a little bit more traditional. And how many times do you go on the road? Like sometimes when I see bands like AC/DC and U2 and these ones go out, they just become these monolithic affairs. It's like they have to hire out at even a bigger stage and bigger than last time. And it almost becomes sort of like, well, how much is enough, you know?
I've actually found a nice little clip of Kirk mentioning it, actually, about the stadiums. Can I play that little bit for you now?
Yeah, love to. The
thing about arenas, especially in America, is they're all incredibly the same. I think they're all designed by the same architect or something. And, you know, after a while, you don't really know what town you're in or whatever. But at least with these, every show is different, you know.
Just been monotonous for them, and this is why they wanted to get off this wheel and get back into the dirty and sweaty clubs.
Yeah, and look, anytime INXS did a world tour, and I think Gary sort of educated us on this when he was on our podcast back in January, he said that often took the first, 3 months or whatever there to make a return because, you know, they're coming from Australia and they had road crews from here and they didn't have just everything at the drop of their hat like the U2 guys did in Europe where you could go out and just announce a gig and have this infrastructure and stuff like that would be suddenly just, applicable straight away. Europe's not their home base. So it was a big exercise to sort of go on a tour and suddenly, commit to all those years away. And I think the band also too, as I said, getting back to recording and getting back to sort of the artistry side, REM did something similar at the same time where they'd come off the Out of Time album in 91 and they released Automatic for the People the same month as Welcome came out. And they chose not to tour it as well because that was quite a mandolin / softer orchestral album. They thought, well, we don't really want to tour, and they didn't go on tour till the Monster album about 2 more years later. So their commercial sort of star didn't sort of wane from that. Automatic for the People really took them to the stratosphere. But again, as I said, it's rare that bands don't tour and have a commercial sort of juggernaut. Over time, Welcome sold very respectable sales, between 3, 4, 5 million around the world. But it did sort of curb their commercial appeal in America. Suddenly when Taste It, as a video clip was banned, normally, these days banned is good. Back then, banned meant, well, if MTV aren't playing, no one's going to see it. And there was no internet. People couldn't watch it now, or watch it then if there was because there was no internet. So back then, getting that video banned hurt them commercially. And then suddenly when the GIF film clip came out and there was the scene where the mallet's punching the nail into the wrist, like the Jesus Christ sort of crucifixion, that sort of had a big sort of, black tape through it and things. And, the record companies were going through, some changes with the band and they weren't necessarily supportive, for the band and in terms of, promoting the hell out of things. And Michael and Andrew were probably in Europe a little more at the time in terms of where they were based. And it's probably why the album did very well there because England were always an album behind. And coming off Wembley, the Welcome sort of went and did fantastic. But, yeah, it was just an interesting sort of choice there that I think At the time, people questioned, but I think in hindsight, the band, proud and going, okay, well, it is what it is, and it ended up being what it was. But as a young fan at the time, I couldn't have been more thrilled for having access to go and be affordably able to see them. Because
yes, no, I'm very jealous, very, very jealous that I didn't do it. Kick myself.
And look, for those who are real collectors, and we talk about probably the collectors groups out there, but posters were so cool. There was a really great poster promoting, Tim playing the guitar, and it was a little.
Wait, it's Kirk, I think.
No, I think it's Tim.
You reckon?
You reckon it's
I think someone said it was Kirk. All right. Right. Well, we'll have to find out.
Well, the reason why
he looks like the clouds.
Yeah.
His hair looks like the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was definitely Timmy, because also the T-shirts we got at the time and some of the signatures we got, I do remember Tim signing my T-shirt and stuff like that, and he liked the pose that he had, et cetera, there on the T-shirt. But, look, it was great to be able to afford and have the money as a struggling university student to afford to go to these gigs. And you think about big bands and I guess trying to make themselves accessible to the people. I mean, these days we have to look at, some of the fan sites who are trying to go to concerts, and Live Nation, some of the distressed ticketing prices, thousands of dollars to go see Taylor Swift. I mean, we must have gone to some of these gigs for $30 or $25 or something like that. They were very affordable. They weren't commercially motivated gigs. And, we were so fortunate to even meet the band outside the gigs and the concerts. And it was this little community huddling around for a week, of which was there and a couple of my friends there and a couple of sort of mutual friends there at the time. And it was a great little community of people all sort of, sharing the whole experience together. Everyone had different T-shirts on from different tours and different booklets. And, it was a bit like who's the bigger fan versus each other, who could trump each other. But it was fantastic. And I remember, that particular time stood quite fondly. And again, it was around that time when they also, had released the audio visual Full Moon Dirty Hearts clips for all the songs off the future album. That came out a few months later. And we'll talk about that on future episodes. But an interesting time. Now, one thing, B, we had lots of listeners, as I said on Twitter, remind of this 30th anniversary tour. Is there anything that struck you with any of those tweets in the last week, or any engaging you've done with some people about this point in time or period of time?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but I just want to come off the back of what you were talking about there. You missed my hand up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hey? They had different support bands in every concert.
Yes.
There was over 50 artists at one point for every venue. I think it was Kirk who was saying, in fact, I'd like to play it.
1,600 people were queuing outside the Town and Country Club by 5 o'clock last night. Half of those there were waiting to see just one person, INXS lead singer Michael Hutchins.
Oh, I think he's got what every man should have. He's just got a great body, great hairstyle. So just the way he moves and his body and his hair and his legs and his bum.
Would have to wait though. This was a big night for Leeds band The Birthdays. They were chosen out of thousands to back INXS by the band themselves.
We had to be pretty ruthless because there were so many tapes. There's 50, 60 from each town. For each show, and so we had to sort of be ruthless, and they just shone above the rest in Leeds.
I'm really glad you reminded me, because that thing where Tim Rogers from UMI posts that thing about Michael and about how the media, are now championing him, but back then they're giving him a hard time.
Yes.
Well, that was the first time I saw UMI. They were the support band at the Palace.
Oh.
I'll be honest with you, I'm embarrassed as an INXS fan that night, and I'm embarrassed for the other INXS fans. We didn't give that band a chance. The drummer, we gave the drummer heaps and whatever there, but we were really obnoxious. And again, sorry, Tim. But they were one of those touring bands, the Killjoys, the Black Eyed Susans. There were a whole bunch of other bands that they did take on tour. And some of these bands kicked on to really great commercial success in the 90s.
Well, I'd like to just play you this little clip from a band from England who were called The Birthday. And it's a young lady who was the lead singer there. So let's listen to her.
Well, I received the letter and I realised it was the result, so I opened it and I thought, it's a bit more than one piece of paper there. I thought, there can't be rejection, so I opened up and it's just said, congratulations, you've got the INXS support in Leeds, and I couldn't believe it. We've worked so hard this last year especially. It was just so nice to be people that like our music to choose us.
Finally, the hundreds of fans at the Town and Country Club got what they were waiting for.
That was cool, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's been happening. I've found the post that we put out for the Get Out the House tour back on the 10th of April on our Facebook page and onto our other socials. But Facebook went off some of our top fans, actually, that we don't actually ever speak about. So we've got a lady called Philippa Carter, is our top fan on Facebook. She said, yes, front row in London, Astoria, when the following day at Nottingham Rock City, there was the thing, you bought the ticket when the venue was announced. I live near Oxford, so London, so bad. And of course, it was well worth it. And Michael Tomley was at the second Frodo show standing with Denny Hines and Richard Wilkins. Now, you know who Richard Wilkins is. He was there when they got their MTV awards, wasn't he?
He famously interviewed Cyndi Lauper and halfway through the interview picked her up and took her to bed.
Wow, okay.
True story.
True story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard a few interesting sex stories about that man, actually.
Yes.
Anyway,
hello, ladies.
Karen Hall, she was at the Coogee Bay Hotel and was down near the front.
Yes.
The place was packed.
Yes.
I'd seen them many times at larger venues, but this was intimate. The gig was the best. Actually, I've also another piece that talk about Tim and girls' hands and how close they were.
On this tour, INXS have returned to the venues where their career began, playing their steamiest, sweatiest shows for years. And as guitarist Tim Farris told me, it's really brought the band closer together.
That's great. You know, I can tell if Kurt's wearing deodorant and he's on the other side of the stage. You know? It's just as important for us to be standing like this with each other as it is so with the people, you know? I mean, you know, and having the people so close to us has led to some very interesting moments on this tour.
Are you going to tell?
Oh, no, I couldn't really. Some of them are a bit much. But, you know, young girls with busy hands, and I play guitar, I'm saying like this, you know, it's like, what's that? My God, she touched me there.
Sorry, you finish. I just had a memory, yeah.
Liverpool, Cy Harrison, Rob, he was in Fremantle, John A. Rink, friend of the show, he was in Toronto, saw them in the arena, it was fantastic. Oh gosh, it just goes on and on. If you want to read these, there are some really, really good ones. There's a guy called DM, saw them at in Glasgow on tour, had to queue at HMV or Virgin for a ticket for a day or two before the gig, a day or two.
Yes.
Opened with Communication, closed with Don't Change, a bit like yours. The whole tour was played durably in small venues. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely awesome. It's so good that lots of people went to them, even though they were small.
Yes, yes. I had this just memory there. The first gig I went to there at the Palace, upstairs they had a bit of a VIP area up there, and they had half the cast of Neighbours up there were watching it. And,
really?
And as we came out of the concert and they were coming down out of the VIP area, we gave them heaps of shit. So because we're obnoxious little 22-year-olds, you know. So there you go.
Tell me where that place is. Was that knocked down?
It was knocked down, yeah. So it's next to the Palais. It's a car park now, but it was just a venue.
Why did they knock it down?
I think just to make a car park, I think. And maybe because they couldn't afford to keep it going. But the Palais next to it's heritage listed, and then you had the Palace where the gig was on was dispensable, I guess. So, but yeah, so no, great anecdotes there. And it's just, I think it was fantastic to see an international big band that still had gravitas in a small venue at a price that was fair and close enough to really engage. And there was no phones and all that sort of stuff. So you were really in the moment. And you, as I said, I'm getting a fruit bowl from Michael, and you were that close to the stage, and you could see everything. It was such a great experience there, you know.
Can I just also add, you've got a friend called Jane Garzo?
Yes.
Yeah, and she is trying to help. You just said about the palais getting knocked down. They're trying to knock down the tote.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about that? I know this hasn't got nothing to do with INXS, but I want to know.
Well, for those listeners out there who love music, if you do know the Aussie band Jet, and you do know
I do.
You do know
Fantastic.
their hit song, Cold Hard Bitch. Now,
that's right.
That's filmed at the Tote. And that was a worldwide hit for them. And the Tote is one of those iconic inner Melbourne hotels, about 500 metres from where I used to live. And it is probably one of those ones suffering from being able to afford to keep its doors open. So they're doing a big campaign to raise $6 million. I think they're up to nearly $2 million. And they're just sort of generating enough money to be able to afford the licenses and things like that. So Jane was the person who thankfully put the Ollie Olsen campaign together that raised a lot of money for his needs. So same person
there.
there.
Isn't she?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Go Jane. Okay. Well, if you want to support Jane, then find her on Instagram. We'll put a link into the description here. And if you're from Melbourne or you want to support live music venues, then help her out.
Absolutely. And the last thing, just to round off our topic a little bit today, is really just to sort of go back and look at that particular period there and walk away with this very simple narrative, and that is that the band chose that size tour and chose to decompress this big juggernaut and getting on the conveyor belt. You know, how many times did they want to play Wembley? How many times did they want to tour America to 50,000 seat venues? They probably could have still done that even for this tour, but they decided to slow down a little bit. And again, as I said, I think the legacy of this slowdown is we got Welcome, we got Full Moon within such a quick period of each other. And that's 23, 24 fantastic songs that still stack up today. So sometimes when we think back to artists who achieve great success, I look at the Beatles and go, wow, well, look, when they stopped touring in 66, they came out, in 67 with, Sgt. Pepper's. They came out in 68 with the White Album, 69 with Bloody Abbey Road and, Let It Be, and you could even argue Revolver in 66 when they stopped touring. So, we've got some really great songs and some great gems that are have grown over time and are still there. So, again, kudos INXS 30th anniversary from the fans of INXS Access All Areas, ourselves, and the greater community. Thank you for bursting your own bubble.
We just decided it can be done. We can go from stadiums down to tiny places, and it keeps that whole pressure off of where do they go, what do they do, and it becomes more of a mystery, and I love it. I love being in a fairly successful band and playing this to 1,000 people at the Academy in New York, and that's it. And then next, it took a long time to play all these places in the end. We worked harder than a normal tour, but
was it good for you as a band to do, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it was our make or break tour for ourselves. We took away all the limos and the giant light shows and blah, blah, and the crap, basically. We just knew that we would either be a band at the end of it, the first show or the first week, or we wouldn't, Simple as that. And we were, and we really enjoyed it. And actually, we were grinning and just, yeah.
This is Manny from the UK, and here is the news.
All right, B, we've got some news to go through. We want to say thank you to Norway. I'm not saying the band from AHA, but just Norway in general, and the Norwegian people who've made our podcast a top 10 listened to podcast in the last fortnight. So thank you to everyone in Norway.
I need to know how to say thank you now in Norwegian.
We could say Norgen Vars.
Norgen Vars? Okay,
Norgen Vars? I don't know, ice cream. All right. Thank you. All right. Also, too, gigs-wise, B, it is only a couple of weeks away from the INXS re-mentioned gig in Perth. I've got some exciting news to mention. The concert
You've got me a ticket.
Not quite.
Oh.
Ticket prices are between $89 and $149. But there's a gentleman called Tyrone Noonan. Now, Tyrone is the brother and one of the major players in the band in Australia called George. So George were quite a prominent band in Australia, won ARIA awards and things. He's actually going to be singing a lot of the Michael tunes for this gig live. And he is somebody who probably grew up with INXS in his veins, as he said. And there's going to be some other, I think, choir and support for him. So he'll be actually playing the vocal side of things at that gig if you're fortunate enough to go. Never say never be. We may make it there. We may make it there. Who knows?
It's not just the ticket, is it, for us? It's the airports and
no. Being on tour.
They need to, and all the drinking.
Maybe you could email the concert venue and say all this plugging we're doing, we can get a freebie or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Or they need to tour it.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Ripping through some other gigs. The Don't Change Boys, 13th of October at the Gov Hotel in Adelaide. Okay. Proving a very happy hunting ground, Adelaide, for the Don't Change Boys. INXS Boys, the Victorian guys, that is, the INXS version, are playing on the 27th of October in Hobart at the Republic Bar. The Live Baby Live guys are playing on the 10th of June at Moonshiners in Tamworth. Maybe Andrew could pop in and get up on stage. John Stevens and Andrew Farris, I'll just put down here, are everywhere at the moment. They're playing gigs all over Australia, one with Don McLean and the other one with Rod Stewart and Cindy Lillalpa, finishing up his tour with her. Hello, Cindy. Two mentions today on the podcast. Also, 2B, there's a cool one over, a gig, I think it's in Brisbane. Now, this could be something we go to. It's actually on my birthday this year. It's called Stuck in a Moment, the U2 and INXS Story. Now, it's on the 1st of September this year at the Princess Theatre in Brisbane. And I've put in brackets, let's go.
Well, we've got places we can stay in Brisbane. Excellent. All right, let's do that.
Now, importantly, over in Scotland, there's a massive need for an INXS classic tribute band to make their way be. Now, I do know that in the town of Glasgow, they are in urgent need for this INXS Scottish tribute band to find a keyboard player. So anyone good on the keys? Get online and you can find out, and there'll be another band worthy of INXS tunes being blared out in Glasgow. Next one over here, there was 2 hours of INXS love on the radio today. Now, Legends of the Airwaves, I think it was on the 4th of April this year on Mixcloud. There was 2 hours of INXS songs and sort of reminiscing by one of the hosts there. So you can go into your search engine and plug that in and shut your eyes and enjoy the INXS love. Also, 2B, 35 years since the INXS New Sensation song was released. Has had a little bit of record and acknowledgement. 26 years, I think, this week since Elegantly Wasted, and that's created a lot of traffic on our platforms. And also, there's been a couple of great articles. I saw one again from our friend of the podcast, Tim Peacock. He has done another revisit, not on Elegantly Wasted, but he's done one on The Swing. So great article from Tim Peacock, great friend of the show, and we look forward to having him on soon.
Great. I hope we can share that.
And B, that's the news of the week.
Excellent.
Hi, you're listening to the #1 INXS podcast, and now it's time for fan engagement.
Well, hello, welcome back to us, Danielle. It's been a while. Have we got a lot to talk about in our little episode of fan engagement? How have you been?
I have been wonderful, beautiful. B, I've missed you, so I'm excited to be back with fan engagement.
I missed you too. You went through all the Facebook pages and found out our top fans. So who we got there? Give them a shout out.
All righty. Well, let's start with Anna Lee, Andy, Belinda, Suzanne, Charlene, Caroline, Sean, Jerry, Phil, Gabby, Fiona, Hildy, Philippa, Balishka, Diane, and David.
Oh, well, thank you guys. You're always so cool on our Facebook pages, on our posts. You're always commenting and liking. So thank you guys. Really, really lots. And next week, shout out all our top fans from Instagram. Talking about Instagram, you just saw a few things on Instagram, didn't you, Danielle? What were they?
We have talked about Studio Girl art before, and about 20 minutes ago, she just dropped a new picture of herself in John Ferris backstage.
Oh,
ladies, you need to check this photo out.
Okay, that sounds great. And I want to give a big shout out to it's Michael Hutchins INXS page on Instagram. And oh my God, they are sending out a lot of photos at the moment with Elegantly Wasted. We've been adding them to our stories. So thank you guys, whoever's behind that page. Awesome research, really top people. Also, a big shout out to our very own Laurel Schneider. She is excellent at research and sends out a lot of posts onto the various platforms on Facebook. So well done there, Laurel. That's fantastic.
Well, across my desk in the last couple of weeks, shout out a fan engagement of Liz, Ivan, Suzanne, Shanta Suds, Vernon, and Paul.
What have they been saying to you then, Danielle?
Well, Vernon has been messaging me, and he is loving the podcast. So thank you so much, Vernon. And Paul has messaged us about a clever idea of someone interviewing the guys documentary style and maybe telling their stories. And I was like, well, that would be interesting if we could get Richard Lowenstein to direct it too. So yeah, that was a great idea, Paul. I like that idea.
Awesome. I put a post out earlier and it went onto my own personal page. So I will mention this to you because some of you might not see it. Got a message here from Adam Hendry. Hello, Adam. You're pretty cool. He says, I was lucky enough to see them on this tour. First time I have ever got into a pub. He was 15 and underage, naughty. And mind blowing, he said, I actually caught a bottle from Hutch as he threw it into the crowd and I still have it to today. How cool is that? That's awesome. And then we've got Luke Troy. Hello, Luke. You're pretty cool too. He went to the Horden Pavilion, saw Michael on crutches. He said he went backstage with his brother and our girlfriends in the corner of the pub at South Dowling and Oxford in Sydney, and Michael gave his jumper away to a random girl. Well, random girl, if you're listening, let us know if you still got the jumper.
Yes, please show pictures. We would love it.
This isn't fan engagement, but it's brought a lot of fans together. But Blair of Don't Change sent a beautiful video onto all the platforms of him singing Stuck in a Moment in his own natural voice. How beautiful was that? I'd love to play it for you, Danielle. May I?
Yes, ma'am, you may.
I'm not afraid of anything in this world. There's nothing you can throw at me that I haven't already heard. I'm just trying to find a decent melody, a song that I can sing in my own company. Never thought you were a fool. Gotta stand up straight and carry on way. These tears are going nowhere, baby. You've got to get yourself together. You got stuck in a moment and you can't get out of it. Don't say that later will be better. Now you're stuck.
I love it. I know. Oh my gosh. And if you can't see the video, if you're just hearing the vocals, you've got to see the video with us. It is gorgeous.
The visuals of Blair on stage with Michael's visuals behind. It's just so well put together. It's so respectful, so beautiful and honest. And his vocals are absolutely crazily beautiful anyway. I sent it to Tim and Kirk and they both said, what an amazing voice. So it's so good to know that they've got his support too on this. So well done, Blair. Hoping to see Blair on the 6th of May in Toronto, which is an outside gig. I've asked if I can sleep at the bottom of Blair's bed, but I'm not sure if he said yes or no to that one. But otherwise, I am definitely going to be there.
Well, I'm sure that invite will stand when you get there, B. Well, this is not a fan engagement, but can I just say INXS may have just made it to the big time. I was listening to a promo for the new Keeping Up with the Kardashians on Hulu, and what song was playing at the very end of the promo? None other than Never Tear Us Apart.
Wow. Well, that'll be good, won't it? So you reckon that's going to come out on the actual show as well? I hope so.
I hope so, because the more people that know about INXS, the better. So thank you, Kardashians.
Thank you, Kardashians. Not that I watch it, but I might be watching that one.
Guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure. I don't know who it was, but there was a lovely lady. Actually, no, I do know the name. It was Michelle Stevens, posted in Hutch Nation that if you can go to the department store at Big W in Australia, they've actually got some INXS kids t-shirts at the moment at a size 3 to 7. So if you want to get them for the grandkids or the kids, or if you've got a very small teenager, I think they might fit there. They're pretty cool. They're grey with the INXS logo on. So yeah, one for the collection there.
Yep, we got some t-shirt collectors out there, that's for sure.
Greetings and salutations. This is the Accelerated Culture Podcast, the rise of alternative music in the 80s and beyond. In this podcast, we aim to walk through an often ignored bit of music history. My co-host Trey and I will explore how new wave stormed the airwaves in the early 80s and gave way to the rise of alternative music.
And that was our very own Laurie, who actually also hosts her own show, which is Accelerated Culture, which is all about 80s music. Is that right?
Yes, it is amazing. She's with her co-host, Trey. If you are into your early 80s, she kind of does a timeline. And I know she just did one on the Michael Hutchence the other week.
Excellent. And I think she gave us a shout out. So we're giving you a shout out too, Laurie. Thank you very much. And if you were lucky enough, you had an email from Neil Corsa about the INXS's new book, which is Calling All Nations, and you got your story submitted. So congratulations to everybody. If not, maybe it might be coming soon. You never know. But congratulations to all of those that are coming in. And Neil has actually been in touch and he wants to come on the show. So it'd be nice if me and you could talk to him, wouldn't it?
Oh, I would love that. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Seems a very interesting guy. He's a musician himself. So, yeah, I think he'll have some great stories to share with us. And also, obviously, some of the stories that he might have heard of about INXS as well.
Can't wait to read this book.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Danielle, for coming on and talking about all the different fans out there. We love you. Send us your messages. You can get in touch with us on all the different platforms. We loved hearing from you all. So thank you. And thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, B. Have a great week and I'll see you next time.
Hey, this is Paul Jolly from Sydney and this is The Big Rap.
All right, thanks, girls, for that. Always fun checking with DKR from Pensacola, Florida. Okay. B, now we mentioned at the start of the show, we have a signed signature thing with the word welcome. Now, you can show it up to me, but we are auctioning off a brand new, yet to be opened CD, and it's got in beautiful gold writing, Mark Opitz's signature, and it's got Andrew Farris's signature, and it's got a nice little message on there. And we're going to auction this one off, and it's actually even signed on the CD component too, which is awesome. And we're going to auction this off. And as I speak, B is pointing at Michael's butt. Okay. All right. Okay. B, that's rather rude. But we're going to auction that off. And again, if you are a collector and you'd like to have signed stuff official from band members on brand new, never be played CDs and material, this is not to be missed. So we will announce the launch of this probably in 7 days' time when the auction starts, probably around the last week of April. And we will let you know on our platforms. And I would say get in early with the bid because you don't want to miss out. B, speaking of people not missing out, our patrons are a great lifeblood of the show. Our friend Nick Egan likes to talk about our patrons. We might handball to Nick at the moment and welcome them all aboard and then go from there.
Hi there, this is Nick Egan, better known by you fans as the designer of the Kick, X and Live Baby Live covers, as well as director of the Searching and Don't Lose Your Head videos. Just under 2 years ago, I was on vacation driving up the central coast of California with my family, and I was looking for something to listen to, and I came across a podcast which immediately aroused my attention. It had a quirky but professional style to it. It was conversational, there was a lot of humour. I was immediately taken by it and reached out to both Hayden and B and offered myself as an interviewee, of which I did, where I talked about the kit cover primarily. And since then, I've appeared on the show on a couple of occasions, or a few occasions, and I've seen it go from being a relatively localised but popular podcast to becoming a global podcast. So I also wanted to say to you fans out there, if you're not patrons already, please sign up, become patrons, because both B and Hayden do this as volunteers. They both have jobs as well as this. They put a lot of dedication into this podcast, a lot of love and a lot of time and effort. And even if you can't afford to become a patron, try and contribute in some way, because we need podcasts like this. We need podcasts that come from the fans, that are true to the fans. And we don't want to sit here corporate band podcasts. We want to hear real podcasts from real people. Anyway, congratulations, Hayden and B.
Say hello to everybody outside on the highway. Let's all say hello to everybody outside. It's about 10,000 people at least. Hello.
Well, hello to our honorary members, Tim Ferriss, Nick Egan, Mark Opitz, Richard Simpkins, Cameron Adams, Mary Woods, Darren Jones and Paul Jolie. Our patrons, Carmen, Laurie, Carrie-Anne, Danielle, Sarah Markram, Sarah Camia, Dr. Jim, Katie, Lisa Mack, Anne-Marie, Susan P, Susan B, Foxy, Pedro, Mandy. Happy birthday, Mandy. Lisa, Yvonne, Amanda H, Amanda V, David. Safe journey to you and Michaela back home. Tracy, Paul, Ella, Ryder, Tony, Erica, Abigail, Martin, Val, Jim, Matey, Kelly, Jackie, Sean, Sheila, Shannon, Helen, Brett, Suzanne, Laurel, Bard, Genevieve, Shelby, Manny, Laurie, Jill, Leos, Heidi, Paula, Lisa Urban, Angie, Nancy, Juliet, Scott, Anthea, Maria, Tracy, Vernon, Jamie, Diana, Stefan, Andrew, Georgie, Stephen, Keisha, Mark, Vern, Shane, Lachlan, Mandy, Rachel, Nick, happy birthday, Sula, Amy, Diane and Paula, and our special mentions go out to Sue D, Joe Robbins, John A. Bink, Michael Spriggs, Glenn Davis, Paul Boozy and Jay Finlinson. Big belated happy birthday to our beautiful Joe Robbins. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, now, we're going to come back with our tribute song. We thought we'd go with something today in line with a bit of our theme, and that is 30 years ago, a live recording that was done, and opening up a gig and a concert with the song Communication B was a joy and a joy and a joy. We're going to play this live version of Communication. Won't possibly be the one that was at the venue we were at, but it is pretty symptomatic of the one that we enjoyed at the time. And fantastic song, a classic deep cut song, never a single, but a bit of a fan favourite, and that's what INXS did so fantastically well over the years, and that was Communicate. So kudos to you. It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from B. Goodbye, everybody.
Life icebergs slipped into your satellite with vicious fires. Communication, disinformation, so entertaining. The money, that's what I hear. It's gonna flow, gonna blow this place apart, gonna take us all away.
Almost uncanny juxtaposition. On the left bank of the river, and just a stone's throw away, assemble the bourgeoisie. Laid-back living and creativity go hand in hand.
Communication, disinformation, so entertaining. Blood money, it's wild in here. Should see the light.
It's Tim Farriss. On behalf of all the band, I just wanted to wish you a very, very happy birthday. Hope it's a good one.
This is the Dutchie, and you've been listening to INXS Access All Areas with Hayden and Bee.